Hey, whoever's watching this, as long promised, this is my business partnership video. So I'm going to detail all the things I've thought about in regards to finding the perfect business partner, how I might go about that, some important things to consider in terms of creating an agreement. And one of the things that comes to the top of my mind, all the research I did up to this point, a lot of people use the analogy of finding the perfect business partner is like a marriage. So you don't go getting married on the first date. You try out some projects, you feel things out, you go on some dates to see who's a good fit. And yeah, let me jump into it. I'm gonna read some notes off my laptop, try and get some points just off my laptop, but keep it fun and entertaining. So some of the qualities I would be looking for is someone who's got a good eye for design. So someone I resonate with in terms of the things they like, in terms of, I like my Birkenstock shoes, or I like certain body styles of cars, or there's certain mechanical workings of things that I really enjoy in terms of things like Apple computers have a really great aesthetic. I wouldn't say I'd necessarily go and pay a premium to get that product, but there's something to it. Cast iron cookware. I love traditional cast iron cookware. There's certain things, certain mason jars. I really love the shapes and proportions and size. I'm trying to think. There's other items. Anyhow, this was a tangent that I wasn't anticipating going on, but creating something that's a high value, the aesthetics, the function, both those things going hand in hand. So even if it wasn't working, it would still look beautiful. It would still have that, leave us with a desire, I really want to repair or rebuild that thing and make it great again, make it functional again. And interested in developing a lifestyle product that improves the quality of life and makes things simpler. So there's a lot of things that are overcomplicated that I don't really want to get into putting a lot of bells and whistles on something. Like for instance, cars with heated seats. I mean, in certain applications it can be really cool, but is it really saving anything? Here we're taking additional electric power for, say, a gas-driven car, when meanwhile we have all this excess heat coming from the engine to cooling system anyway. So here we're using extra fuel to heat seats. I just don't buy it. I feel like there's something better. And it's not that I want to have the engine coolant going through my seat, and I don't know. Anyhow, that was just my best example off the top of my head. So next point, someone who enjoys technology, research and development, engineering, getting into the finer points, picking things apart. That'd be really cool in terms of having lunch hour and being able to geek out on certain things we really like. That would be great in a business partner. Someone who's on time, organized, commits to doing a very few things well. So someone who's not like, I have this business going, I have that business going, we're going to have a venture, this is going to happen. No, I really, one of the reasons doing the shop full time has worked so well is because I've made it my main pursuit. I know if I had a full-time job and I was doing this and pursuing other interests and relationships and playing music gigs on the side or something, like, no. I like going hiking. It doesn't take a lot of cerebral space on the side. So someone who also really wants to devote a big chunk, at least in the upstart phase, of getting some projects done and really being able to pin down what the key performance indicators would be, or KPI. So that's one thing. So everyone gets to do things in their own time, in their own way. So there's an agreement from the get-go. What are we both bringing in? So that would be a number one thing as far as someone who wants to take the time and have those really pointed discussions, say, hey, this is what I want. This is what we got to agree to for one another. And what are the consequences if one of us doesn't pull through, especially if we're at a later stage when it's really critical? Does that mean one of us gets to buy the other one out, or someone forfeits what they put in up to that point in order to keep the stakes high, in order to keep the commitment there? that's things that I really love to look at in terms of, I know I can be my own worst enemy in terms of not getting things done, because left to my own devices, I'm always right. And that's a big part of having a business partner, as far as having someone there for just day-to-day accountability and structure. And when there's a challenge, just having someone else to bounce some ideas off of. So those are all huge things. So someone who enjoys being social and delving into conversations, but also keeps things short and sweet. That we don't walk over to each other and start conversations because we're lonely throughout the day. That's not where it's at. It's, having some structured break times. And then occasionally, on a Friday afternoon, there's that tendency to get a little chatty. Having a morning meeting is always a great thing. So starting the day off with a big bang and getting everyone on board, that's super cool. Now, next point. Wow, I'm ahead of my points here. Able to ask for help or seek outside support when things don't feel like they're going right. So just like I have key people in my life, some mentors, some guides, some people who have been there, and I know it's tough because a lot of the people I look towards, they've got full-time things, they've got families, they've got all kinds of things going on. So, it might not happen instantly, but there's a lot of people I can get in touch with when I really need to throughout the course of a week. So I'd say that would be things I'd look towards in terms of asking that person, hey, who do you reach out to? What are some examples of those really tough times and some really great answers you got and insights where you wouldn't have seen those things in yourself without having that really honest person? You develop that really deep relationship where it could stand a really honest, hey, maybe you gotta look at this thing over here that you don't really like. I just had one of those conversations this morning in terms of, part of me that wants to say, oh, it's about other people not appreciating what I'm doing here. Well, part of it for me is helping to nurture that perception that what I do here has value. So, well, there's ways of rearranging that. It's different than me just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic when the ship's sinking. So I realized part of the day I'm doing that, but part of the day of what we call 3S'ing in lean culture, which is sorting, standardizing, and spiffing things up. There's a better term in there, but that's what I'm using for today. Just making this place feel really good. That's a way of feeling uplifted and moving into the next thing. But I can't spend all my time every day doing that. I've got to have some tough conversations. Got to look at some things that aren't comfortable. I'm not saying I got to spend all day doing that either, because otherwise I'll just feel so overwhelmed that I'm not going to want to do anything. I'm just going to feel like this person that I see myself as, that same part is going to be looking at it and hating it. So it's not worth having all those roommates in there running the show. So next point is growing a business in a way that it can be shared with others. There's nothing I want more than seeing whatever I put my life's work in being really safe for posterity, having the future generations be able to have some kind of a way of owning stake in it, succession planning. That's one of the regrets I have that got me started on this whole thing. If some of the places I had worked had succession planning and said, hey, there's a role for you in the future, I would have completely been on board, 150, 2,000%, whatever it is. I would have just been there. There's still a lot of things that are attached to my heartstrings, and it feels like there's big cables that draw me into certain things. And I gotta say, whoa. I gotta look out for my physical body, look after my needs, instead of just getting into other people's projects, because I have this emotional thing to when times were tough and my sense of purpose, belonging, my sense of significance was really tied into my job, my work, who I thought I was. So nurturing that in a really good way for the coming generations is one thing I would want to share with a business partner long term. Interest in specialized projects. Oh yeah, sales on a national level I think would be a really cool thing in terms of connecting people across the country, collaborating with other companies that have similar vision, similar values. long-term strategies, that would be super, super cool. Even some international relationships in terms of trade associations, people are in similar businesses. Maybe there's a product we develop that has a viability that's specialized enough, it makes sense to build it here and distribute it all over. Maybe it's something we do the research on and it gets built different places, especially in the age of 3D printing, not just in plastic, but in metal. There's all kinds of additive manufacturing stuff that's just mind-blowing. And who knows, maybe that's some of the stuff we'll develop when there's that right team. So what do I want from a partnership? I just have to scroll down a little bit here. I want a full-time business partner. So maybe it won't start out that way. Maybe it will be part-time, looking at some things. Who knows? But long-term, full-time business partner, definitely. Have someone to bounce ideas off of. Be like part of each other's families. Be like extended families. And it's like a marriage, like any kind of relationship. It just all starts out by, hey, we meet, we have a really good conversation. Oh, let's catch up sometime. And the next thing, at the end of that catch up, we've already planned our next, 2 days down the road. Oh, you're doing that? I really want to get involved. And I've had so many friendships over the years that way. And so many of those people I always pestered, hey, what if we came up with something? What if we did a business? And some of those people, they'd definitely still be tops on my list as far as business partners. But, there's that drive as far as getting outside of our comfort zones. And I respect that not everyone wants to go there. Part of me doesn't even want to go there. But part of me also loves the freedom and possibility for creative expression that it supports. So that's a big part of having a business partner, having a business, doing something, an enterprise. I don't always think of it in business terms. There's a lot of things in social enterprise, or there's all these terms like having a triple bottom line in terms of we look at the environment, the world we're in, as well as things like the social environment and what we're giving back. I feel like there's something else. Anyhow, I'm going to get on to my next point here. Common long-term vision, definitely a big thing to start nurturing from the beginning, instead of two people coming together and sailing apart like ships in the night, to really find some outside mentorship, even if that's what it takes. Sometimes things really come together and gel, and there's a lot of common aspirations. I've seen people who have had really interesting talk show kind of, a talk show. Yeah, just say talk show. And they have a guest that can provide a lot of really great insight. So someone who's also interested in going on things like plant tours, trade shows, and getting out there and meeting people that we really aspire to be like. And maybe the parts we work on of a different project, maybe those roles change, but there's always going to be a relevance that we nurture and support. That's so much a big part of a business partner. And even thinking about some of the things I'd see leading up to that, people that are also at this same stage as where I am in their entrepreneurial journey, even having a weekly phone call just once a week and to share the journey, that would be so cool. I would totally be into that. So next thing, looking at non-negotiables, that would be a big thing as far as that full-time business partner. So for example, the work days we'd want to put in. So, for me, I wouldn't say it's a non-negotiable, but it would definitely need to be looked at what it looks like on a day-to-day basis, as far as if someone needs to be in the shop 5 days a week, to accept if there's orders being shipped in and out, and if there's only a couple of us from the beginning and we were both partners, are we going to overlap? Are we going to spend time together and collaborate? How do we negotiate that space? Things like that are a big thing. And also, do we see this as a 40-hour a week venture, or is this something we're like, we're going to pack a lot into 20 hours. We're going to enjoy all our other time just looking after our personal health, spending time with family and friends, and we'll socialize outside of here, but we'll just leave work as a work thing. Who knows? But it's definitely one of those things that would need to be talked about. So, next. Oh yeah, opposing strengths. And I think I brought up the whole finders, minders, and grinders philosophy that some people like doing the front end sales, finding opportunities, and where I would fit in, I would think of myself as more of a minder. I don't like doing the frontline sales. I love public speaking. I would love going to trade shows and answering people's questions. But at the same time, I don't want to handle anyone's complaints at this point. If someone else said, "Oh yeah, I got thick skin. I'm like a duck. Water just rolls off," and I can tell you in a really gentle way, because it takes me back to all my times in my childhood where someone would just come and yell at me and I'd start crying. And it's like, I don't want to go there now. And it's been one of my downfalls in business as far as not really seeking feedback as much as I would like. And I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea as far as I take a long time. I have a certain quality ideal that I hold on to too strongly for some of the day-to-day things that people look towards. And then sometimes I feel like I completely miss the mark and my quality is just not there whatsoever. So yeah, it's tough for me, that part of being an entrepreneur. And then there's the grinder part where some people say, "Hey, I just want to come in. I don't want to think about how I'm going to come up with the next great idea. I just want tasks. I just want one task after the next just fed to me. I just want to do them." And that's great too. Because I tell you, I enjoy that part when, say, if I'm working on a milling machine and there's a whole bunch of products that need to be made, and I get to set up different fixtures, and I get to run a bunch of parts and see how mentally sharp I am. That's super engaging. That's super fun. But would I want to spend 20 years after I've made that fixture doing that same part? Not for me. No thanks. And there's some people I know who would love, that's just their meditative pursuit. Like some people love just cutting the lawn. Oh, no one can bug me there. The tractor's noisy. But that's better because I know no one's going to get into my headspace. That's not for me. If I never had to touch the lawnmower again, as long as I live, I'd be perfectly content. So, next thing. Oh yeah, aspirations. So for me, I love the trade shows. I love the public speaking. But as far as doing cold calls and even making deals with suppliers or making deals with people who would want to distribute something that we built, I wouldn't say it's a strength. I would say I would really love if someone else had those strengths. So that would be a definite asset. That would be a definite plus. So after that, having a really clear roles, that's on my list. What tasks would we need to outsource? That would be a big thing to talk about. So who would be our personal lawyers, our financial advisors, our accountants, and, if one of us had looked to an accountant that had a reputation for being a real slime ball, I would want to know that up front in terms of, I don't see people as being slime balls, but when people's reputations precede them in a negative light, it's one of those things to say, hey, how can we talk about this? How can we do this in an adult way where, we don't need to put anyone down, but look at, I want to know the people on your team are people that I would really be proud that are going to give not insight just to you, but you're going to be able to share that same insight with me and with our common venture, and then we're all going to gain from it. That's so cool. Instead of, and I know the first person I had that said they were an accountant, who actually wasn't an accountant, didn't understand tax laws and all this different stuff and claimed to be knowing all these things and all shuffle all your money around. It was terrible. I mean, in terms of, it didn't take me very long and I didn't know anything back, early 20s, didn't know what the heck was going on, but it didn't take me long in terms of, I just went to this tax seminar held by the government and realized this guy he doesn't know. I just go to one tax seminar and I know more about tax than he did. Light comes on and says, hey, time to reevaluate here. So, clear roles, which tasks to outsource? Yeah. And then who we use for accountants, lawyers, and then financial advisors. Who do we use for an auditor to make sure there's fairness and transparency and that everyone's being looked after? That's a huge thing. And auditing long-term, to have the room to bring new people on and show that we're transparent and got a good scene and that we're making a profit and that we're giving back, that's huge. So maybe not even just an auditor on the financial end, but on the social end as well, as far as what's that triple bottom line, what's that full impact that we're bringing in. So, next one, who we seek as a board of advisors, and special bonus, anyone who's really curious, I'm going to do an upcoming video on what it means to me as far as when I talk about a board of advisors, what those people look like, and it's going to be a really cool video resource, and it'll give all my thoughts on that. So that's going to be coming up. Watch for it. And so, who we seek as a board of advisors and common direction. So that's like what I was talking about before. You know, when I've seen people who are interviewing different business people and they get all these nuggets of wisdom, you know, who do we both resonate with? Who could we go to seek advice from? Yeah, that would be definitely, you know, just starting that conversation and then building on it so that when we are starting to sign a real commitment to one another, that like at a wedding, there's witnesses, there's overseers, there's who stands behind this couple that are, you know, have googly eyes for one another, and for people to say, hey, we've got their backs, we're going to hold them accountable. So having some of those people somehow structured into that document, that would be so cool. And I can think of so many people that I see in the business world, they'd be like, yeah, you know what? Modeling something different in an agreement is something where we could really, there's a word for jumping outside of our league in terms of finding some really, I don't know if I want to say big players, but people who are prominent that I wouldn't just go and call up on the phone. I'd feel too small. But if there was some new venture and it was structured in a really innovative way, and we all wanted to model that and show how we're this space for innovation, yeah, we could bring in some people that have a lot of notoriety. They could really hammer things home and make this thing just blow up from the get-go in terms of really getting a lot of interest and a lot of people championing what we're doing, getting support. So that's a big, really cool thing that I'm so pumped about. And, whoo, oh yeah, who owns the IP, intellectual property, and going to be owned equally by the team? Is there such a thing as intellectual property? My own inclination is to keep innovating so quickly that we don't have to worry about someone ripping something off. And, you know, half the time, if it's in some country, I mean, right now, a lot of times, like China's the whipping boy, like, oh, they do knockoffs. But as China wants to have better trade policies in order to be more respected and to have their trade desired, you know, they're really clamping down on knockoffs. But there's always going to be that next country that, you know, is the China, you know, the China of 5 years ago that has no respect, that's just looking to get into any market, even with knockoffs. It's always going to happen. So do we really spend the time policing, or just do a lot of due diligence, create a really great product that people have a really strong sense that it's made by us, and they just want stuff that's made by us, and that knockoff market's going to be so small, and it's just going to be a compliment in terms of, hey, people really love what we're doing so much that someone wants to make it available at a different price point. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe it's such innovative technology that we just got to say, hey, anyone who wants to jump on the bandwagon, so cool, and we'll attract more people to our team, and we'll come up with an even more innovative product that would be where I'd really want to focus my energy and my intention. So who knows? But the intellectual property discussion, definitely very important for whatever there is, or trademarks, branding, all that stuff that, because there's all the physical assets, but then, I mean, a corporation or something in the lifestyle marketing, there's got to be some degree of gatekeeping. Anyhow, I'm done on that topic. It's definitely a super good conversation though. And how are personal achievements recognized? I mean, we come from different places. Depending on, I mean, when I wasn't as mature as I am today, and I'm still feeling like I'm not that mature, where I like getting some credit. I like when people give me a pat on the back, when someone takes time to really care, and when someone passes them, hey, how are you? Do they actually really mean, hey, I really want to know about your life. And it's also really great when there's a story of the day that gets shared, or coming in off the road and someone says, hey, how was it for you getting here? Really commemorating achievement, milestones. How does that stuff get done? Because that's what really nurtures a culture. That's what helps achievement. How do we share gratitude for the things that are going on in the world that we really want to get focused on? Big, big things. Oh, I think there's a car here. That might be the end of the video almost. Boom. Oh, man. Oh, there's another whole page. What equity is being brought into the business? What's that all about? And what intangibles are being brought? So sometimes an education, a perception, maybe there's a whole other posse in there, and insider knowledge and networking. So those things are definitely things that have a tangible value. And reviewing a track record. So writing down points that can be used for a company biography, that's a big part in terms of creating a brand, creating an identity, creating a way to build value, brand value, loyalty. Oh yeah, financial status. So disclosure of credit rating, looking at a credit rating report, a credit history, any liens, stuff like that, bankruptcy. It's all, I mean, some people would say, oh, it's messy stuff. It's life, it happens. Having a really clear explanation and being transparent, and also saying, hey, this is what happened. These are the checks and balances we can put in place. Just having a good human connection where the things that are looked after, so we all have our certainty at the end of the day, that we've got our money coming to, that we can all put a roof over our head and food in our bodies and, be under warm blankets. It's all good. It's all good. So, man, yeah. Talked a little bit already about the key performance indicators. So that's a big one in terms of what things need to come from all different partners, what can be agreed upon in terms of what feels like a mutual contribution. So that's a huge thing as far as maybe there's one partner, maybe there's two, maybe as other partners come on. Those things need to be negotiated on an ongoing basis. What type of facility, timeline, or team do we feel is necessary to make working together really viable? So looking at the big picture, long-term picture, what do we really want to aspire towards? So for me, right now, I would say, being part of a 20-person team, that would be a good size fit. And being really selective, not saying, oh, we're growing like crazy, let's get people in, but to find those people that really fit, like, oh man, you feel like, this feels like we've been friends our whole lives. I want you to be part of this thing. And funny, there's the odd person that shows up in my life. I'm like, oh man, it's something I can feel in my heart. I know I can just be open with this person. And just going with it, and it feels good. And that's the kind of connection that's really important, and making sure that's a mutual thing with everyone. And if anyone feels like, oh, there's a little something off, then that thing needs to go away before bringing anyone new on board, and really working through to resolution and having a good mutual affection is a really important thing. I'm not saying everyone's got to be like best friends and pour their hearts out to one another, but to see the quality of work and to respect. I mean, we've all got our blocks, we've all got our sticking points. I know I've got mine, but to still have a deep, profound respect at the end of the day, and be like, oh man, yeah, I got like, hey, we don't really get on, like we don't really hang out, but oh man, you just killed that one, you just knocked it out of the park. You know, my gratitude. And that's so cool in terms of having other ways to connect, in terms of having, 20 people. There's going to be different groups that would subgroups that all come together and make a really cool team. So that's definitely big things to talk about. Oh man. Oh yeah, here's one. Are we equals? Are we partnering up? Or are we partnering down? So sometimes, if there was someone young who didn't have many skills but had a lot of energy, someone might be considered partnering up because I've got some assets, I've got some experience, and at the same time that person might surpass me in terms of they won't have all the grief I've had from all the years of putting myself out there only to feel like I didn't get what I was really looking for. So there's a lot of ways where people could, surpass their KPI and go past, or maybe I partner up with someone who's already really established or has a lot of capital, has things that are beyond what I can imagine in terms of has the perfect facility, is retired even maybe, just wants to dabble in something. Who knows? That could work too. So, but really being clear as far as, is this partnership of equality in that sense of what we're both bringing to the table? How do we hammer that out so everyone gets something and everyone feels like what they've contributed at the end of the day has met the mark, and not always like, oh yeah, when you get up to my point, then we'll hang out, then we'll be cool. No, that's not what anyone's looking for in this life. So that's a good point to look at. Oh man. Ratio for financial compensation. That's a big one in terms of key performance indicators, and maybe someone's bringing a lot and someone else is bringing fewer things, or maybe just doesn't have a focus in their life to do certain things, or maybe someone's already got a big chunk developed and the other partner is just bringing in on the last 25%. Who knows? So those are things kind of on the same topic as what we looked at before. How will we raise startup capital or goodwill for assets, for tomorrow's vision, for all the pieces that need to come together? One of the things I really have loved lately, and this could be a future video, is people who've done really well at doing Kickstarters and either developing a prototype or pitching an idea and pre-selling whatever it is they're going to create, cover all their overhead, buy their machinery, buy their material, and then start to produce that thing, and then, meet all their, reward the early adopters, innovators, early adopters, in allowing them to have the first of whatever's produced. So that's a really cool thing. That's a way I'd love to kick off in terms of having everything pre-sold. That I think is one of the coolest strategies ever. Valuation of the existing business ventures. So I mean, right now I've got a bunch of machines in the shop. There's a lot of things in the business plan as far as checks and balances, different practices to integrate. There's a lot of research that's gone into that. If you see some of the other videos on this channel, you'll know there's been different things that have been just improved slowly over time, that unless starting into something, don't realize all those things that need to be learned. And a lot of them are really hard-won lessons. So having a valuation for stuff like that is a really important thing of honoring what we all bring. So also looking at things like clients coming in and relationships with specialists like accountants, lawyers, things that are really high ticket items or things you don't really want to mess around on in terms of some things don't really contribute to the bottom line, like how the lawn gets cut, but you don't really want to mess around with having an accountant that leaves numbers off a bit or a lawyer that forgets certain stipulations in a contract. It just wouldn't work that well. Whereas, oh, you forgot the lawn for a month, you get it the next month. What's the big deal? So there's certain things that would really need to be happening, and those are things as far as looking at how those get brought in, also really important. So, oh, here's a big one, meeting friends and family. And that's one of the ones when I started doing research and hearing the analogy of a marriage as business partners, meeting the family, seeing how people behave, see who people hang out with, see what their interests are, see what is going on behind the scenes. Because there's a big part of certainty there in terms of, you know, if I had a business partner and I saw what happened with them in their personal life, and if they weren't with a partner where they're being treated equally or treating the other as equal and really having kindness and love in their heart and really seeing that, oh man, it would at least be a conversation to be had. Not because I'm not someone who's at a point in my life where I cast people out and I put, you know, people in this category and that category, but it's important to see what goes on in someone's whole world. Wouldn't they be a big part of my world? If someone's going to have an emotional time at work because of their personal environment, that's on my plate. The same as I'm really accountable for having really positive, healthy relationships outside of here, because that's something I put on everyone's plate showing up here, especially in a leadership role, because it all, you know, boils down from, you know, the top. You know, as much as I want to get past that, oh, there's people at the top and dumping on others. I mean, that's not what this place is about. It's really about being in a place of leadership, uplifting and inspiring other people. And how are you going to be up here, uplifting and inspiring, if in your personal life there's stuff that's leaving you feeling way down in the toilet there? It's just not going to happen. So, whew, this is, sometimes I'm glad for this scrolling that I'm doing here. Okay, so, another list. This one I'm going to do boom, I'm just rapid fire. So, someone who takes and encourages decisive action, someone with great bedside manner, feeling of safety to have honest and vulnerable conversations, great level of discipline through being accountable to others, a second opinion on products to develop, estimates, timelines, workarounds, key performance indicators, someone to go knocking on doors to get the next answers, someone that can point out where I'm getting stuck on the project at hand, bolstering my courage. For instance, bolstering courage, the only way I go and do an hour of yoga is if I walk into a class, there's other people there. So sometimes having someone watch what I'm trying to do in order that I don't go, oh, it's not really comfortable, and just jetting out. So that's a huge thing. And someone being understanding of those parts and recognizing those parts are in themselves. And anyhow, that's done. Sharing and building a brand identity and a brand value. Lightheartedness. To take a beach day when it feels like the world's falling apart. Now, who doesn't love anything more